And in a way, up until this point, I think a lot of it really balanced out. The only thing that really disappointed me was the lack of the old forest, because that really could have been the end of the Fellowship. Not the Fellowship, because it wasn't the Fellowship yet. It was just the four hobbits. But that really should have been added. That's the only one I've got like a really big problem with, is because that could have ended their journey before it even started. They could have died in the Willow Tree. They could have died with the Barrow Wights. Like, Tom Bombadil saved them, and did so in a way while also showing that the great power of the ring had no hold over him. At least introduce the character. Like, do something. That's the only, like. But here's the thing. Like, I know I'm being like critical of this one piece. That's the only piece I'm overly critical of. All the rest, like I said, we did detail a lot of the differences. But the differences they had, not a lot of it negatively affected the storyline to where there's huge plot holes to where it doesn't make sense. The additions they added, some of them are really fucking cool. Like the wizard battle was awesome. The fight scene with Aragorn and Weathertop was cool. The switch to Arwen, I'm definitely fine with. It didn't change much about the storyline there. When it was talking about getting him across the ford to Rivendell, that's fine. I didn't love the fact that Gandalf didn't show up at Weathertop, because it's like, they made a whole point in that to make a clue for them, and rangers being who they are, being able to decipher things and find things that other people don't, that are easy to miss for other people, like normal people. Definitely thought that could have been added in there. But for the most part, the differences that were there weren't negative. They didn't negatively affect my thought on the storyline or where the book was going, and it wasn't so far off to the point I'm like, oh, this is stupid. Like with Harry Potter, we talked about it a lot. There was so many differences. Like, dude, this just didn't happen. This was just like really bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like the difference really that they had, and the few things that were direct, like contradictions, had an issue with that. But outside of that, that was only two that I found in this little part one here that were direct contradictions. I'm like, man, probably should have definitely fixed that up. And then one is silly, right? The one with the fireworks, it doesn't do anything to it, but Gandalf specifically said, no one's getting any fireworks until the party. And then in the film, he's like, all right, let's throw some off for some kids in the back. If you want to ask me what my ratings are, I would probably give the novel up until this point. If I go for a scale of 1 to 10, there's just a lot of times where it was a slow read for me, and I had to really push myself to get through some of those pockets of description and not a lot of action happening, and not a lot of important detail that I needed to know. So I'd probably give the novel somewhere around, I would say like 8.4 is probably fair for part one of the novel at this point. And honestly, like I'm gonna say it, man. I think I'm gonna give the film like an 8.5. I think I'm gonna give the film just a little higher. Just like they're really similar. They're very right there. Like I don't think it was a crazy difference of rating. I don't think one was way better than the other. They're right around the same for me. There were the little kind of cool additions that they added to make it very fun on screen is what really did it for me. Like I said, that battle with the wizards, the whole fight between Aragorn fighting off 5 Black Riders by himself, throwing fire torches in their faces was awesome. And then like Arwen outrunning the Black Riders there and taking them out with the water horses was sweet. So those things I got to visually see instead of just having my imagination do the work. I'm just gonna give it like a little bit of a higher rating. I'm gonna give the book part 1 of Fellowship of the Ring 8.4. I'm gonna give the film part 1 of Fellowship of the Ring 8.5. And that's me. What about you, man?
Yeah, man, and here's kind of the thing, is from a director's standpoint, I can understand why you wouldn't put Tom Bombadil in there, only from the fact of, besides the Council of Elrond, he's basically never brought up again. So I could understand how maybe the fact probably came up at some point where they didn't want to confuse audiences, but yeah, you should have definitely put some sort of reference in there. So that was my big disappointment with it. But even though they made changes in the scripts, I think that's why this film has been, the overall majority of the story is similar in ways to the novel, and I think that's great. That's a big point. I really enjoyed the visuals in the film, and this is 2001. I mean, it's not like we had crazy CGI technology or anything. It was done really well. That whole Top Gun scene on horses with Arwen was badass. I thought the Ring Wraith fight, which was very well making references kind of to the book with how they fear fire with Aragorn, was awesome. I even like the ads with like the interaction with the hobbits and how it was a little bit more comedic and funny. And yeah, the wizard battle is badass. I'm gonna give it to the film, man. I'm gonna be generous here. I'm gonna give the film an 8.8. I'm gonna give the novel, because like that's the thing. Like the novel, I don't have a problem with, but it's a deep read. Like it's like the way it's written in the literature. It'll take J.R.R. Tolkien 2 pages to describe they walked. Okay, that's all you had to say. I'm going to give the novel an 8.3.